Hello, my name is Hassan Sorrells, and this is the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast shorts. There's no co-host on these shorts episodes. These are now around 2 to 4 minute, sometimes as long as 6 to 10 minute observations, ideas, thoughts, or rants about the literature, philosophy, psychology, and even the theology of leadership. Because listening to me talk about leadership for now around 2 to 4 minutes is still better than reading and trying to understand yet another business book. Even that business book your coworker won't stop raving about because it quote-unquote changed their life, but you can't see any difference in their leadership behavior. So how good could that author be? This is going to be a controversial take, but I stick with it. We weren't meant to get all, or maybe even potentially most, of our significance from work. Family, community, traditions, these are the areas where significance and meaning are supposed to emanate from. But the myth the industrialists and the mass marketers of the 20th century sold all of us was the myth that if you just gave over a little agency and a lot of autonomy, you would get cash in exchange, and everything would be okay. This deal eventually evolved into one where many people seek their identity from the work they do. Think about it. How many parties do you go to as an adult where you are asked, what do you do? And if you say anything even remotely outside the paradigm of work that other people can understand, you are considered an outlier, a weirdo, or quote-unquote lucky. The 20th century deal started unraveling, along with every other social deal in the West, in the late 1970s. A little more life was injected into it in the mid-1990s with the rise of the internet, but that was an unraveling tool and an unraveling technology that kind of took everybody by surprise. But in the chaos of the last 25 years, all that significance has been brought to bear with greater and greater weight on the last place where collectively, we are forced to be part of a group, forced to be part of a team, and forced to accomplish goals we may not care about with people we might not have chosen to work with in environments that may be physically, socially, or ecumenically suboptimal, and all for 8 or 10 or 12 or 14 hours a day in exchange for, well, little pieces of paper with pictures of dead presidents on them, or digital pieces of paper. Whatever. Workplaces, work environments, work relationships, and work quote-unquote friends aren't meant to carry the weight of family, community, and tradition. When we talked about work culture, we are really expressing regret about the seeming passing or decline of the areas in our lives which gave us meaning and significance before the industrialists and the mass marketers strip-mined it all away from us. The way out of this trap is simple but not easy. The way back to family, tradition, and community is obvious but hard. And the path forward to the future is not well traveled, but it is instead full of problems, challenges, and conflicts. Leaders, take the people you've been given and begin the hard, easy, obvious, simple, and well-traveled process of dismantling significance at work and rebuilding significance in areas other than there. And well, that's it for me. Thank you for listening to the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast today. And now that you've made it this far, you should subscribe to the audio version of this show on all the major podcast players, including Apple iTunes, Spotify, YouTube Music, and everywhere else where podcasts are available. There's also a video version of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to the video version of this podcast on the Leadership Toolbox channel on YouTube. Just search for Leadership Toolbox and hit the subscribe button there on YouTube. And while you're doing that, leave a 5-star review if you like what we're doing here on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Just go below the player and hit 5 stars. We need those reviews to grow, and it's the easiest way to help grow this show. And tell all your friends, of course, in leadership. By the way, if you don't like what we're doing here, well, you can always listen to another leadership show. There are several other good ones out there. At least that's what I've heard. All right. Well, that's it for me.